have developed a new fear of rubber chickens in like the last 10 minutes. Okay, now for something completely different, and I bet you probably weren't expecting this to be one of the first images, but one of the things I really want to highlight to everybody today is that you are amongst a cohort who are actually leading the rest of the world. Okay, people are jealous about what we've been able to achieve here in Australia. Whenever I travel abroad and I tell them some of the work that's going on, not just in work that I've been directly involved with, but general, they're just jaws on the floor. How on earth did you get to do that? I'm like, well, Australia, we can do these things, right? So the future is now, and actually, sometimes on a Friday when I'm trying to unwind, I'll go onto YouTube and I'll just put in things like drones. And this one kind of freaked me out a little bit, but you can actually, it was a successful extraction of the tooth. I'm like, okay, so we're now, the reason why this is quite important is we're at business as usual. I've been ribbed on Twitter for this, but I said about 6 months ago, I reckon we'll have more drones than smartphones per capita in Australia in the next 5 years. Then I decided to redo that to about 1 year. And so this Christmas, I reckon we're finally going to take number of drones per capita is going to beat the number of smartphones per capita. So anyone has any kids that need their teeth pulling out? I don't know that I recommend this method, but it was random. And of course, everyone's probably familiar with the Intel footage. Yeah, so that was pretty sweet. They flew 100 drones. They did like drone fireworks and Intel, dun, 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 you know, and all that kind of stuff. I have no sponsorship, by the way. And that was a beautiful way to show and really humanize some of this technology, because the word drone has the most awful PR attached to it. I bet most of us, when we first heard the word drone or saw a drone, it was probably in a military construct on the television. And that's fine, but that's not what I do. I use technology to capture data, to answer questions, empower communities, and educate. And so for me, having firework drones it's okay. It's a good use. The teeth pulling, I don't have kids yet. I don't know that I will actually advocate for that. But welcome to the new drone economy. Now, has everyone seen this one before, Gimbal? Gimbal won the prize in the UAE, who've been doing like a drones for good hashtag. This has got lots of hashtags, right? Hashtag drones for good. And the prize is $1 million US. And Gimbal won this a couple of years ago. Now, Gimbal is fully encased with a double gimbal, hence its name Gimbal, and it would actually just bounce around all of us and wouldn't touch any of us. And it's all encased in this carbon steel fiber cage. And so the idea behind this is you've got a mine collapse, you've got a tunnel collapse, you've got a building collapse, you've got a terrorism event, you've got something going on, and you need to get into a place where you can't quite get access, you're not sure what the air quality is like inside that mine or that tunnel, you don't want the rotor blades cutting up people as they travel through these places. So they decided to put it in a ball, and it works really well. $25,000 for the search and rescue version of this, the Gimbal. When you imagine, you know, how much it costs to train and run and operate rescue dogs, this is like the robot version of a rescue dog effectively going into the rescue site. So, and then this happened. And the amount of times I was tagged on Facebook in one day probably hit a world record. Everyone was going, Pokemon Go drones, Pokemon Go drones. And I'm just like, it's the end of civilization as we know it. So you can now buy a Poke drone. So all of those people that were looking around South Bank that I see them dressed up as Pokemon, I don't know if you've had any Pokemon Go parties go on down here in Dalby, if you've got a hotspot or something in Toowoomba. But people gather en masse, like hundreds and hundreds of people. And so they developed the Pokemon Go drone to be able to fly over rivers and lakes and above trees and places so you could go and catch these things. I don't have the app, all right? So you could go and catch these things no matter where they are. Take this a little bit further, though. These lads in New York City were flying a DJI Inspire over New York City, catching Pokemon Go mid-drone. And I was just like, midday, drinking beers and catching Pokemon. I'm like, that's not what we're trying to say about this technology. And so turning some of these headlines into solid conversations is a job that we all have to do in industry. So when someone tags you in a Pokemon Go drone footage, say, that's really interesting. So your hand-eye coordination, has it improved? What safety measures would you put in place if you were going to operate that near people? And of course, the Pokemon Go drones is little micro drones. So it's not the same as flying an Inspire over New York City. Whoever thought that was a good idea? Now, I am rushing a little because I've had my speaking time cut in half, so, but that's okay. If anyone has any questions about anything I talk about today, I'll give you my contact details at the end, and I'm more than happy to talk to you about anything. Smart cities. So we've all heard about package delivery. I mean, who's heard of the pizzas in Auckland a couple of weeks ago? Yeah? Virginia Tech in the US have now got Google delivering burritos. So these things, again, they grab headlines. And they are an interesting thing to look at, but for me, they're also a bit of a distraction. It's an easy headline, it's an easy grab, it's easy media, it's a sexy thing to deliver a pizza. But what they don't realise actually is that the communications, the infrastructure, the technology, and the safety around operating those drones is incredibly complex. And so again, it's these conversations we need to turn into meaningful conversations about this technology and what we can actually do with it in our cities. Of course, power line inspections, and it was interesting to note about the solar farms coming online. So drones are a perfect way to check solar farms, solar panels. My stepmother is COO of Austin Energy at the moment, and they've got the largest solar farms in the world, I think, in Nevada, just outside Las Vegas, and they use drones to check all of their solar panels. So wind farms, again, in the UK, people were using drones to check the nuts and the bolts and the paint on bridges and on wind farm turbines, on the turbines, go and check the bolts haven't come out. So level 1 inspections you can pretty much do with a drone now. It's interesting to note health and safety legislation is changing. And it means that if you don't use the best available technology for the job, you could be in trouble. Right? So if you've got someone having an incident on a rope, why weren't you flying a drone? It's almost going to get to the point where people will be like, why weren't you using a drone? We've had some terrible instances in Brisbane. We had a father and son in a cherry picker taking photographs. The cherry picker crashed. The father was killed. The son luckily survived. Why weren't they flying a drone to do that photography? They were perfectly able to in that particular airspace. I've just hired someone to fly a drone. So why are we still using cherry pickers? Why are we still putting people on ropes when we can actually use drones to do that work? Smart farms. So how many in the room is a farmer? Anyone? Awesome. So my first degree was environmental science and agricultural ecology. So I do know a little bit about farming. The one thing that really excites me about drone technology and farming is that you're built for it. Farms are built for it. Some of the safest, most machine-savvy people I know are farmers. Being able to pull things apart, stick them back together, make engineering work and machinery work, it's the farming community. So being able to drop bugs that fight diseases, being able to look at individual fungal infections in individual leaves in viticulture, being able to do things like soil organic matter, being able to look at salinity, erosion, looking at your dam levels, looking at your fence lines. You can get your fence lines checked without even leaving the bed in the morning. You can have algorithms that tell you whether your cows are standing up, sitting down, whether you've got a sheep on its back, without you having to leave the house. And this is actually really quite timely that this technology is coming on board now as we are facing an aging population, and especially aging farming population. It means our farmers will be able to stay on the farms longer and be able to work that land longer without having to go out on the quad bikes first thing, wake up, have a coffee, check your algorithms, look to see if everything's still in place. You can go out on the quad bike if you want, but you don't have to anymore. So for me, technology offers us choice. Drones offer us choice in the agricultural sector, and I think that's a wonderful thing. Now, this one here is a group called Air Robotics, and it's an Israeli company, and they have the drones in a box solution. And when I saw this, I was like, oh, there is a dream that has just manifested. Because I remember talking to people about 3 years ago about having drones in boxes across your land. So the drone are literally charging in these boxes. There's robotic arms that actually swap out batteries and swap out cameras that you control from your home. And they just open up like something out of the Thunderbirds. They take off, they do their survey, they come back, and it closes back off again. And you never have to be there, technically. Okay, so this is where technology and regulation really need to talk to each other. Because if you're able to fly this without leaving the house, there are rules that you'll need to be able to follow. And these are conversations that we haven't yet had. So technology leading regulation, but that's okay, it's what we've been doing since 2002, and we're the best at it. So if there's anywhere in the world that could establish autonomous robotic drones for agricultural monitoring and assessment, it's here in Dalby. It's here in this region. Who wants one of those? I just like the idea of playing the Thunderbirds theme as it opens up and comes flying out. You paint it up as Thunderbirds 2 or something like that, right? So smart fashion, now I'd like everyone just to hold on with me for a second, okay? So smart fashion. I was actually presenting a couple of weeks ago to a bunch of designers and things about wearable technology, and drones are now wearable technology. So if any of your kids or you're at a school that has a 3D printer, you can now 3D print wearable drones. So this is actually a source of economy. This is a source of jobs for the future. We now have the Nixie, which is on Kickstarter, which is about the size of a watch. So you wear it on your wrist, and you can want to do a selfie, as one does on a Tuesday at 3 o'clock or something. You think, oh, I just want to do a selfie. You can just take it off, chuck it in the air, stand, catch it, chuck it back on your wrist again. But for me, that's not a very good looking drone. If I was going to wear technology, then that's not what I would want it to look like. So this is where design and art and function all need to start talking to each other. You could actually have, whichever AFL or NRL club you like, you could have as a selfie, drone selfie. And the most interesting thing that's come out, and again, it's an Australian invention, is we now have material that actually generates electricity as you walk. So you can be charging your mobile phone or your wearable drone on your jacket as you are walking. Now, this, for me, is something out of Star Trek when I was growing up, right? Something that you'd see on Star Wars. It's actually real. This is real. This is here. This is now. So this is something we call innovation fusion, where two different streams of innovation cross over. And if I've seen innovation fusion done well anywhere, it's been in the agriculture sector. So imagine you're a farmer and you've got your jacket on and you need to take a picture of something and your drones are back and they're going to take too long to get there. You just unpluck your selfie drone, chuck it out, get whatever imagery you want, get it back, the data's already home. So whatever needs to happen, whatever parts need to come out, whatever fence needs to be fixed, you've already got that data geospatially and accurately measured without having had to call up your drone or get it out and start it up and do all the things we have to do with the DJI dance and all that kind of stuff, right? So that might seem a little left field, but whenever I talk at rooms with interested and brilliant minds like this, someone has just had an idea about how that's applicable to their life. And I'd love to hear whatever you come up with regard to this. But also, what a great way about getting kids into tech. This is about stuff that we can touch. This is real. This isn't something that's too big for us to be able to play with. This is something we can actually work with and control. Now, we can't go very far with drones without talking about drone racing. It kind of happens, all right? We might not want it to, but it does. So first-person view racing, someone told me the other day, they've done bets on this, and the VCs, the venture capitalists, have said that drone racing is going to be worth more than Formula One in the next 5 years. ESPN, the big US sports channel, already has a drone channel, drone racing, first-person view drone racing channel. So if you're not involved with first-person view drone racing, I suggest you might want to look into it. There's things that we need to do around first-person view drone racing, such as people don't realise sometimes they need to buy certain radio frequencies and bandwidths, that they're using them inadvertently without getting permission to do so. So again, these are conversations that we need to have. Incidentally, the world champion is from Queensland. So this again is where Australia is actually, the Americans must hate us. They're like, where is this place, Australia? They're beating us with everything. And we're like, yeah, mate. We were ahead, we've got 15 years head start, you're catching up. So one thing as well I'd probably put a call out with that is I've not yet met a female first-person view drone racing pilot. And so if there's any women in the room that have a vague inkling that they'd like to get involved in drone technology, can we please get some women into these drone racing competitions? Because we don't have any that I know yet. Now this is drone surfing. Now, and again, it's one of these things that gets the headlines. It gets the YouTube clips. These are the things that kids are seeing when it comes to applications of drone technology. And again, we've got to take that excitement and buzz and turn it into meaningful conversation. So, this is obviously with a person on water. I've seen people on skis doing it. I've seen people on snowboards doing it. And so people are taking these drones and actually applying them to various things. Now, if you imagine, who would have thought first-person drone racing was going to be huge? I mean, Star Wars Episode 1, we don't talk about 1, 2, and 3. We only talk about 4, 5, and 6, all right? But at least in Episode 1, they had pod racing. So maybe we can reclaim the word drone in the first-person view racing by calling it pod racing instead of drone racing. Innovation fusion, like I already mentioned. So this is a 3D printed drone. So if you have an opportunity to get hold of a 3D printer, you can actually download open source drones and actually build your own drones with a 3D printer. So this allows us to test, right? We're able to do precision engineering. And if there's one thing that Australia is good at, it's manufacturing and engineering. And so maybe this is an opportunity for us to retrain and rehire people who've lost traditional jobs through manufacturing and engineering. This is a serious source of future economy. And the beautiful thing about 3D printing is it puts us on a level playing field with many other manufacturing countries across Asia-Pac. To be a 3D printer is not the same cost differentiation between, a human. So in terms of China being cheap to produce things, well, quite frankly, once we've got enough 3D printers going in some of our older factories, who cares where it is, right? And at least here we can actually design and play, and this is the way kids can get their hands on it. New flexible materials. We're now 3D printing carbon fiber, so you can actually 3D print carbon fiber big drones, like the size of a bale of hay. And so there's all this kind of, new technology crossing over. So if you thought you could never build your own, or you were tinkering around with metal in the garage, get on board the 3D printing revolution. This thing kicked in a couple of years ago, and it's never really found the passion or the niche around it. But it's a perfectly good opportunity, especially to cross into drone technology. So again, if you want to have it in the colours of your favourite NRL or AFL team, you can make your own, right? Who wants to build their own drone now? Come on, I'm trying to push this. Okay. So in all seriousness, though, drones are incredibly powerful. And with that power comes a lot of data. You will be generating masses of data that you have never seen before. I remember once we were flying a long-range mission. I think we flew for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and it took us 2 or 3 months to process the data. Okay, so you're talking supercomputer level, hybrid iCloud, not even iCloud, cloud-based, hybrid-based, do you have your parallel computers here? Do you go to a hybrid function? And so data to information is a big problem for us in this industry, especially in agriculture. Because if you're able to capture data at 1 centimetre resolution over your land, you realise how huge that is in terms of terabytes of data. And how on earth are you going to process that on the computer that you currently have? You probably will need to buy a faster computer. How much are you going to spend on that? Are you up to speed with the new software? Is there a way in which you can pre-stream or plan your programs so that you actually only get the information that you want without drowning in data and starving for information? And this is where I got involved with drone tech. I didn't really care about drones. Sorry. I just saw them as they're a platform technology. They're carrying payload and capturing the data that I want to make the information to apply to this study. So the way the drones fly is very key. You actually fly your drone in a way you want it to capture the data. There's no point in capturing a load of data at 1 centimetre resolution if you just need 5 centimetre resolution or 10 centimetre resolution, because that's on a hiding to nowhere. So mapping software and volumetric calculations, we're getting into this stage now of machine learning. So we'll get to the point where you'll have an algorithm that does your analysis for you. You'll either have someone writing that bespoke for you, and this is where academics and industry really need to work together. So academic industry partnerships have been really successful across the drone industry, and especially here in Queensland. Again, we are leading the rest of Australia, and Australia is leading the rest of the world. So if anywhere can come up with software that can handle what we're trying to look at, it's here. I can't really iterate that enough, can I? But are we secure? So we know that there have been cyber attacks on our geospatial databases across this country, a number of them in the last 6 months. And if you think about all of the new kinds of information that we're looking at, all of the driverless vehicles, even Tesla's been hacked. They hired someone to hack into another electric car as well. I can't remember the brand. It might have been Toyota. But they actually paid hackers to hack their systems. So if everyone's feeding off maps like Google Earth and Google Maps or other publicly available data, how do you know that that car that you're driving that's a driverless vehicle is on the right road? Well, you're trusting it to have the map right? So what happens if someone hacks the map and moves it by a meter? How would we even know until something bad happens, right? Or you figure out something's wrong. So are we secure? So cybersecurity and cyber terrorism are absolutely on our Prime Minister's #1 list of things that they need to look at. And 2 weeks ago, I presented at SciNet 61, and I was just after someone from the CIA, and I was just before someone from the Prime Minister's office. And this is a serious conversation. We're looking at the hacking of geospatial data. Just as we move now into digitization of pretty much everything, are we secure? There was actually some studies done in the US, and you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, Duncan. I don't know if we've done any here in Queensland yet about how to hack drones. You may have had some trials and tests over at ARCA. Can we actually hack into the systems that we're flying with? And the answer is yes, we can. So your drone could get hacked, especially if you're using Wi-Fi, especially if you're using SATCOMs, especially if you're using any kind of third-party communications other than your eye on it. And even then, your radio signals can get hacked. Okay, so this isn't to scare anyone, but these are conversations that we need to have, around the security of our command and control and our data storage. So they were able to hack a drone from 2 kilometers away. I can't remember which university it was at. So where are we now? In the US, we are registering 2,000 drones a day. 2,000 drones a day. They've registered over 300,000 since their laws changed in, a couple of months ago. Part 107 came out in the FAA. So they're already going to get to 500,000 drone registrations by the end of the year. 500,000 drone registrations by the end of the year. And people aren't seeing this as business as usual yet. We're already there, right? We're getting our lovely new regulations coming into Australia. Let's get some sane conversations started around developing better practice, not just best practice. And also, we don't have registration here yet. Should we? Do we really need it? They actually do register them in the UK, the USA, and Japan. And also, as I mentioned earlier, our cyber tax on geospatial data. So we're now reaching this critical mass of business as usual colliding with new development of technology and new regulatory frameworks. So where's the opportunities, especially for this region? Agriculture, 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 agriculture. Okay? If there's any industry that can actually have the same conversations around all the different parts of the ecosystem involved in drone technology, it's agriculture. It's what you've always been doing, since ever. We can develop better practice by having forums like this and having the meeting of minds of lots of different parts of industry. Software development is something that we're really not quite there yet within this industry. We need better software. That there is a defibrillator drone, if anyone hadn't seen that before. So what they've got now is if someone's having a heart attack, they put a call out and they fly out a defibrillator drone that then you do your defib. I know in shopping centres they have defibrillators popping around the place, but now they'll have them probably on buildings waiting to be called out or on hospitals ready to be sent. The insurance around that will be a very interesting exercise. Challenges. Connectivity. So NBN, Wi-Fi, SATCOMs, especially in more remote areas, do you have the connectivity to be able to do the command and control, the data download, and even to transmit the data if you're wanting to use a hybrid cloud-based kind of processing? Data storage. Whoever here stores their drone data on terabyte hard drives, you've got to get up to speed with some more sane and cyber-secure storage. Data is gold. Data is worth a lot of money. You might have already been flying drones and you don't even realize the power of the data you've already got in your hands. People are willing to pay for this, right? People are interested in this. And cybersecurity. It's something that I think we really, really need to position ourselves as having the same conversations around. And with that in mind, I think I've pretty much brought us back to time. I've not heard a rubber chicken going off. I have spoken incredibly fast, and I do apologise, but that was going to take me about 10 minutes longer than it actually has. I have a website, drkatherineball.com. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, all those kind of usual places if you want to connect and find out more information. And just to let you know some of the other things we've got going on here in Queensland, in August next year we will have an international conference in Brisbane, but part of that international conference will involve trips and communications out to the regions such as this. So we'll be having robots beaming in and all the big speaking engagements beaming in and having you beaming into Brisbane, and we'll probably be bringing some foreign visitors out here to the Dalby Toowoomba kind of area to have a look and see what we're going on with drones out here. So, happy to take, maybe if you have an interesting question for me, Duncan, we've got like 2 or 3 minutes.
Terry breathing down the shoulder.